times, he criticized capitalism without a conscience. And that's what we have now. We have capitalism without a conscience. He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal, dehumanizing industrial age. He took on the American right wing of his day, its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power.
Horrible, stupid person, actually, that couldn't do the job well. And I fired him, and he sort of confirmed it. I don't know how he confirmed.
Donald Trump just fired back at Jim Carrey, and let's be real, this is shaping up to be the most unintentionally hilarious comedy of the year. Carrey's roast had Trump fuming, probably pacing around Mar-a-Lago like a rejected SNL skit, brainstorming insults between bites of overcooked steak. Now, Trump has unleashed his response, and surprise, surprise, it's just as wild as you'd expect. Did he manage to throw a solid comeback, or is this yet another public meltdown? Stick around, because this back and forth is getting messier than Trump's hair in a strong breeze.
I used to love to draw cartoons, and I thought, oh,
Me too.
you played a cartoonist.
This whole thing has brought back my 8-year-old self. It's been a gift from God. It's like literally like brought me back to 8 years old, where I used to sit in my room. Trump is toast.
The one that's the most successful is Greg.
Who?
Greg Gutfeld.
So Jimmy Kimmel, we got to make him great again.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. Look, we would...
Jim Carrey never holds back, ever. For decades, he's had us laughing with facial expressions that seem to defy human anatomy and delivering comedic takedowns with sniper-like precision. And when it comes to Donald Trump, Carrey has been having an absolute field day. So when Trump finally fired back, you just knew it was bound to be the kind of meltdown that makes a toddler's tantrum look classy by comparison.
Shamelessness is not and will never be a superpower. It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. Almost half of America at this moment believes there is a sinister deep state diabolically plotting to what? What is the sinister plan here? We in America are missing.
Trump, a man who prides himself on never letting an insult slide, took the bait like a fish, waiting its whole life to get hooked. His response? Exactly what you'd expect. A barrage of grievances, victimhood, and classic Trumpian exaggerations. If taking jokes personally were an Olympic sport, Trump would have more gold medals than his fake university handed out degrees. And in true Trump fashion, his comeback was less about addressing Carrey's roasting and more about reminding the world that absolutely no one disrespects Donald J. Trump and gets away with it. Except, of course, for everyone who has ever roasted him.
Whatever happened to the element of surprise? Right, the element of surprise. What a group of losers we have.
Carrey, in his usual over-the-top style, compared Trump to the human equivalent of an out-of-service fax machine, noisy, outdated, and constantly jamming up the system. It was the kind of roast that burned so deeply, it probably left a mark on Trump's spray tan. And instead of letting it slide like anyone who can take a joke, Trump did what he does best. He made it everyone else's problem.
I just want to express it in a positive way. You know, I mean, I want to turn everything painful into art.
Predictably, Trump's response hit all the usual notes. Washed up, not funny anymore, Hollywood elitist. And of course, he tossed in the classic, "some people are saying," which in Trump speak translates to, "I just made this up, but it sounds good." In Trump's version of events, Carrey isn't just a comedian roasting him. He's now part of a grand conspiracy against American democracy and possibly even the sacred art of hair maintenance.
Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
As usual, Melania stayed out of it, but you can't help but wonder what her reaction was behind closed doors. Maybe a well-practiced eye roll, another deep sigh as she mentally tallied up how many more years she has to endure this, or just maybe, she secretly enjoyed that someone finally said what she's been thinking since day one. Meanwhile, Trump's inner circle likely scrambled into crisis mode, brainstorming how to spin this. Should we call Carrey a radical socialist? Blame it on the deep state? Pretend it never happened and hope Fox News skips over it? The possibilities were endless. Of course, the best part? Jim Carrey was probably somewhere grinning ear to ear, knowing he got exactly what he wanted. Trump taking the bait, proving the joke wasn't just funny, but eerily prophetic. Because if there's one thing Carrey and the rest of the world know by now, it's that while Trump can dish it out, taking it, that's a whole different ballgame.
Melania Trump reappeared at Trump's big dollar fundraiser in Florida over the weekend, looking absolutely miserable, looking like she is being held hostage. You have to see this.
Just wanting change. Rich people want it, poor people want it, everybody wants change. Our country is really doing poorly. We're a laughing stock all over the world, and we're going to get that change very quickly. And this has been some incredible evening.
The suspicions that Melania has been conspicuously missing from the campaign trail for very specific reasons. She doesn't want to be there. It seemed to be borne out by her presence here.
Jim Carrey has been roasting Trump for years. His paintings alone could probably make Mar-a-Lago's gold-plated walls spontaneously combust. But this time, Carrey delivered a verbal smackdown so brutal, so sharp, that even Trump's most loyal fans had to pause and think, wait, does he have a point? It wasn't just the usual jabs at the orange spray tan, rambling speeches, or golf obsession, though, let's be honest, those never get old. Carrey went straight for the jugular, exposing Trump's well-documented habit of rewriting history, claiming victories that don't exist, and blaming everyone but himself when things go wrong. It was the kind of takedown that left even Fox News anchors scrambling to spin it, and that's saying something.
Look what Jim Carrey says. This is sick. This came out this morning. Innocent people are now being slaughtered, families ruined, and children's lives destroyed, all in his name. If the craven Republican Senate allows this vile miscreant to continue encouraging divisiveness, the Trump presidency will become an extinction-level event. And here he draws Trump with a swastika, like a giant asteroid coming from space about to hit the...
Trump, of course, reacted in the only way he knows how, full, unhinged meltdown mode. His response wasn't so much a defense as it was a word salad rant that felt like a bad improv skit no one asked for. If there was a coherent thought in there, no one could find it. He attacked Carrey's career, which is ironic coming from a guy whose television legacy is mostly firing people and slapping his name on anything he can. He tried to paint Carrey as washed up, but coming from Trump, that phrase has about as much weight as a soggy cheeseburger wrapper. Let's be real, Carrey is anything but washed up. He could drop a random social media post today and it would trend for weeks. Meanwhile, Trump's big online return after being banned from major platforms? Crickets. Turns out, once you lose the ability to scream into the internet void 24/7, people don't miss you as much as you thought.
Well, we have some of the dumbest leaders in the world. We have losers. We have losers.
They're losers. They're just losers.
We have very stupid people. We have stupid leadership. How stupid are our leaders?
Melania, on the other hand, was likely somewhere in the background perfecting her world-class skill of pretending none of this was happening. This is a woman who has spent years living in a constant state of, please don't involve me. And yet here she is, once again caught in the absurdity of her husband's perpetual war against Hollywood. Carrey's roast didn't just sting because it was funny, it hurt because it was true. He didn't just mock Trump's behavior. He exposed the glaring contradictions, the hypocrisy, and the bizarre desperation to be loved by people who wouldn't invite him to their backyard barbecues if he were the last guest on Earth. The best part? Trump's attempt to fight back only made it worse. Every time he lashes out at someone like Carrey, he gives them even more attention, making their words hit even harder. At this point, Carrey doesn't even need to respond. The internet is already doing the job for him.
That's all of his donors and special interests out there.
It's been an amazing journey for me. It's been a lot of fun. I never thought I'd be a politician in my life. He said I'm not. I guess you're right. I'm not. I refuse.
We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. And I'll use the word anchor, baby.
It's a never-ending cycle. Trump picks a fight, Someone smarter, funnier, and more respected eviscerates him. He throws a tantrum. The world laughs. Rinse and repeat. And if history has taught us anything, it's that Trump will absolutely not let this go. So brace yourself, because this saga is far from over. As expected, Trump's response was less of a rebuttal and more of a chaotic word salad with all the grace of a toddler flinging mashed potatoes. He tried every trick in the book: insults, exaggerations, and his favorite move, pretending he doesn't care while making it painfully obvious that he cares more than anyone. The irony was delicious. The man who built his entire persona on attacking others suddenly couldn't handle a joke at his expense. Even more hilarious was his attempt to discredit Jim Carrey by questioning his career, a bold move from someone whose most famous TV moment involves yelling, "You're fired," at people who were probably more qualified than him. And let's not forget, Jim Carrey is one of the most successful comedians of all time. He doesn't need Trump's approval or, frankly, even his attention. But Trump, he thrives on it. That's why he keeps engaging in these unwinnable battles, turning himself into an even bigger punchline than before.
She's a crooked person. She's a bad person. Evil. She's an evil, sick, crazy bitch. Oh, no. It starts with a B, but I won't say it. I want to say it.
By the end of it all, Trump had managed to accomplish one thing: proving Jim Carrey's takedown was spot on. If there's anything Trump excels at, it's confirming his critics' points. His frustration wasn't just about the jokes. Oh no, it went much deeper. He was furious that Carrey's words had stuck, that the public was loving every minute of it, and for once he couldn't brush it off as fake news. The idea that a Hollywood actor could get under his notoriously thin skin? Unacceptable. It didn't matter that Trump had much bigger problems: court cases, political rivals, and a fan base that might finally be tiring of his greatest hits. What truly mattered to him in that moment was making sure everyone knew how unbothered he was by ranting non-stop about how unbothered he was. Behind the scenes, aides were reportedly scrambling to contain the fallout, which is a polite way of saying they were trying to stop him from rage-posting his way into yet another PR disaster. Meanwhile, Jim Carrey was probably somewhere laughing, painting another savage caricature, or brainstorming his next Trump takedown. Because if there's one thing history has proven, it's that while Trump can dish it out, taking it is an entirely different story.
I said it's illegal. They're very stupid people. Media, look at all those people back there. Scavengers, they're like scavengers.
Carrey didn't just let Trump's response slide, he treated it like fresh material for an encore, bringing the energy of someone who's spent decades mastering the art of comedic destruction. He fired back with even sharper wit, proving once again that Trump's thin skin was no match for Carrey's razor-sharp tongue. Whether it was through another blistering interview, a cutting social media post, or a scathing new caricature, Carrey made it clear that Trump's tantrum had only made the roast even funnier. And here's the kicker: Carrey didn't just call out Trump, he turned the entire situation into a spectacle. His fans ate it up, media outlets ran wild with the story, and Trump was left fuming in Mar-a-Lago, muttering to anyone who would listen about how Hollywood was out to get him. In typical Trump fashion, his attempts to clap back only made things worse. The more he ranted, the more he played right into Carrey's hands. And if we've learned anything by now, it's that giving a comedian more material is like handing a pyromaniac a flamethrower. Things are only going to get hotter.
Apparently I was threatened on Twitter, so I don't know. I didn't see the thing. I heard there was, some severed goat head, and I'll see you soon kind of thing. But, you got to speak, man. This is not a time to clam up, and not a time to get frightened. You have to do what you have to do. This is dire.
Carrey wasn't just roasting Trump anymore. He was delivering a full-on comedic masterclass. Every time Trump tried to fire back, Carrey effortlessly flipped it into another punchline, turning the former president's rants into pure self-parody. The irony was almost too good. Trump, a man desperate to be taken seriously, was now being clowned by a guy best known for talking out of his butt in Ace Ventura. And let's be real, Carrey was loving every second of it. While Trump's response was packed with his usual grievances, paranoia, and awkward self-flattery, Carrey treated it like the easiest comedy setup of all time. It was almost unfair. Trump handed him the material on a silver platter, and Carrey, being Carrey, took it and ran with it like a cartoon character in Overdrive.
We have a president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution.
Let's talk about this Donald Trump, even though we don't want to. Let's bring it on the panel.
Yeah. He's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman.
Absolutely.
And he's, you know, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer.
The result? A spectacle that had everyone laughing, except, of course, Trump, who was likely pacing around Mar-a-Lago, fuming over why no one was taking his meltdown seriously. By this point, it was obvious. Trump had picked the wrong fight. If there's one rule in the world of comedy, it's that you don't try to outdo a comedian who's built a career out of crushing egos with a single punchline. And poor Melania, you can just imagine her somewhere in the background, staring off into the distance, mentally calculating how many more public embarrassments she'll have to endure before she can finally live her best post-First Lady life in peace. Trump's response to Carrey was just another entry in the never-ending highlight reel of his fragile ego getting punctured by someone with a sharper wit and a better sense of humor. As for Carrey, he'll keep doing what he does best, making people laugh, exposing hypocrisy, and reminding us all that when it comes to roasting Trump, the material practically writes itself.